Thank you, Ved. Hey, thank you all. So topic, as you see, it's backup and recovery in CloudStack. So whether you are using CloudStack in production or even you're using it in a home lab, you would have figured out something for the backup, right? Even when CloudStack did not have any specific targeted feature for backup and recovery, everyone had some option to backup and protect their data. So this will cover a bit on the data protection in general. So I noticed a lot of inquiries at ShapeBlue and even in the community about backup and recovery with CloudStack, and more recently, more on KVM due to the recent changes. So I spent some time on exploring few options that we have with CloudStack, and these are my learnings. So let's see. I'm active in the community, and I'm a cloud architect ShapeBlue. Previously, I worked at Accelerate and Citrix supporting cloud platform. So we'll take a look at instance snapshots, volume snapshot, then we go to the main topic, that is backup and recovery framework, and what all providers we have with backup and recovery framework. And I put together a list of things, together we could improve. Let's see. Instance snapshots, basically a feature implemented by the respective hypervisors, and it's available through CloudStack to, you can manage them, create them. You can do pretty much everything that you can directly do on a hypervisor, and you can, it's supported with all the hypervisors that CloudStack works with. But typically, me or anybody here would create an instance snapshot if you want to maybe make some changes and, like an update and quickly recover. So it's typically for short retention. We don't really use it for longer retention. There are issues where, it depends on the source, instance. When you have multiple instance snapshot, you will have issues with performance as well. Then it could fill up your primary storage, right? So it's not really a replacement for backup as such, but it's a good feature to have. You can use it for certain use cases like this one, dev test and so on. What about volume snapshots? Volume snapshots in CloudStack has been there for some time. Since typically it's backed up to the secondary storage, it's not in the same location as the source, it's in a different location. It is generally considered a reliable feature in CloudStack. And depending on the hypervisor, for example, in KVM and VMware, CloudStack implements full backup. And with SenseAware XCP-ng, we can have incremental backups. You can use it for longer retention. In 4.19, there is a feature for copying the snapshots across the zones. So in last CCC, Alex Mattioli demonstrated a sort of disaster recovery using the remote zone copy feature. But still, if you want to recover using a volume snapshot, you either need to convert the snapshot to a template or volume, then you have to attach it. So it's a two data copy operations. Typically, it takes longer time. And if you depend on volume snapshots for backup, you cannot take backups or all the volumes of the instance at the same time. So it may not be suitable for certain applications and use cases that you have. Backup and recovery framework, right? So this is a first-class feature in CloudStack introduced in 4.14. It's not something new. It has been there for some time, but it enables users to create and manage the backups easily using familiar CloudStack UI, API, or CMK. Because of the framework, it's similar to what how we have integrated with hypervisors, where it's agnostic. It gives integrators an ability to write plugins and integrate their backup solutions with CloudStack. And for the user, it hides abstracts the complexities of the backup provider. You don't have to learn something new. I spent some time learning a lot of terms in NetWorker, which is supported, going through the documentation and all. But if a cloud provider has integrated it, for the user, it becomes very easy. So if you look at the integration, right, there is a backup manager. So you can configure your backup provider either on the global level or per the zone level. So the plugin typically interacts with the backup provider using the API service. Currently, we have, for VMware, we have Veeam backup and recovery, backup and replication. And we don't have anything for Sensa or SAP NG at the moment. And we have 3 providers for KVM hypervisor, starting with Dell NetWorker. Then we have Backroll, right? And then we have NAS backup and recovery plugin, which is available from 420 onwards. So what do you expect from a backup and recovery framework, right? You should be able to create backups and restore, right? It is possible, of course. In addition to that, if you are familiar with scheduled volume snapshots, you could do something similar, scheduled backups in CloudStack. But there are other options, like in Veeam, for example, you can define your schedules in the job that you create in the Veeam. So even that could be utilized to create scheduled backups. And you could have, based on your RPO, create something like hourly, maybe in like 2 hours to 3 hours, you can define, okay, it should take a backup. So you don't have to remember, when I should schedule some backup for each instance. So you can create these policies in your backup provider, and it could be imported to CloudStack and associated with an instance. So you can create something like an SLA-based backups. So not only you can restore the whole instance, you can also restore just a volume from a backup. From a cloud provider point of view, since backup and recovery framework is a first-class feature, it has usage metering. So a provider can use usage to create new services and offer it to the user. When this backup and recovery framework was introduced, Veeam backup and replication plugin was the first one that was introduced with it. In 4.14, there was support for Veeam backup and replication 9. It got updated to support 11 and 12, and it's supported in 4.18 and 4.19. Although there is Veeam backup and replication community version, we cannot use that with this integration, because the community version do not provide you the Veeam backup and enterprise manager. We need that for the API access. So if you look at the integration, we use the Veeam enterprise manager plus Veeam API, and there are some functions not available through API, so which we use PowerShell and SSH to implement that. In Veeam, you need to create the sort of a template jobs. Then you define everything that you need there. Your retention, you can configure schedules. You can configure something like Weekly, it should create full backups. All that are possible. And these template jobs need to be imported into CloudStack as backup offerings. So once you associate these backup offerings with an instance, you can either create manual or ad hoc backups, or you can create scheduled backups using CloudStack itself, or you can let the job that you have defined, or the template job that you have defined in the Veeam to run a scheduled backup for you. It supports full backup. For the first one will be full backup, and rest of it will be incremental. Unfortunately, you cannot define the retention through CloudStack, but you should have defined the retention in the Veeam. So once you have created template jobs, CloudStack will clone the template job to it will clone the template job once you assign an offering to an instance. So it will inherit all the properties. Since it's a popular backup and replication software, it has got so many storage options. You can use local storage, NFS. It supports object storage, and it has some special integrations with a lot of storage arrays. I have not explored those in person, but I have tried local and NFS. It works. I wouldn't call it a limitation, but you can't delete individual backup because they are in chain. But CloudStack will give you a notification that, okay, if you still want to, you can force it and it will delete. But it will delete all of them. That is the only one we have for VMware. All remaining 3 are for KVM, and we don't have any for Sensa or SCP-NG yet. This I don't know the person who developed it. It was somebody from in the community who contributed this plugin. The previous one, Veeam, and the framework it was itself, I believe, was contributed by Rohit. Way I think worked on the improvement for the newer version support. Then Nicolas also worked on that. So if you have questions specifically on that plugin, you can talk to them. This developer I see for the networker is active in the community, so you can ask questions anything on the networker. What I see from the documentation, from what I have tried, it was developed and tested against Dell NetWorker version 19.04.06. Although NetWorker actually supports vSphere, VMware, and KVM, this plugin is limited to KVM. So we have an opportunity to improve that for vSphere. Like Veeam, Veeam is an enterprise software. It's not open source. Likewise, Network is also the same, right? NetWorker supports full backup and incremental backup, but this plugin unfortunately implements only full backup, so even that could be improved. Even NetWorker, like any other backup and recovery software, you need to define some policy there. But there is some difference. In Veeam, in a policy, or the term is job there, you can define the storage. So when you associate an offering with an instance and you back up, you know which storage you are sending it to, backing up to. But in case of network, the way the current design of the implementation, you need to create a media pool. That's a networker term for it. Then the media pool contains the storages that you want to use with CloudStack. I believe when this was developed, I think the idea was that this networker would be used in other maybe with other outside CloudStack as well. So there is some specific configuration you have to do. You have to create when you're creating the policy, you need to input a specific tag, CSBKP, something is in the documentation, so that only those policies will be available to CloudStack. There is an option to define the retention in the networker policy, and there is an option to mention or configure. I think it's called workflow in NetWorker. It's more like scheduling, but I try myself. I think it will work. Since it's by Dell, there are a lot of storage options. Some Dell's on a specific data domain, something like that, and there are a few more options there. I tried only local storage and NFS. It worked. The interesting part here is you need to install the Dell NetWorker client as well in each KVM host, and you need to add these KVM hosts into a NetWorker server. Not just that, a logical entity KVM cluster that we have in CloudStack needs to be added as a NetWorker client. So that's the tricky part. You cannot simply add it. The NetWorker server expects some TCP connection to it, and it expects actual NetWorker client software running on it. So I figured out two options. As per the documentation, you could simply add it, but in my experience, it doesn't work. So I had to either install a NetWorker client software in the management server, then add it, then I can uninstall it or stop it, whatever. Otherwise, I could just add additional IP address in one of the KVM hosts and add the cluster. You just need to match the cluster name. Then you can remove that secondary IP address. It's just some workaround you have to figure out. These are the two options I figured out. And it requires QEMU KV agent as well. I believe everyone will run a QEMU guest agent. Other thing is, if you want to try out, there are no trial versions available. It's not free, and you'll have to reach out to Dell. Another thing is, it doesn't support stopped instances. I think it could be improved, but this is one option. If you are somebody using KVM and looking for an open source backup and recovery solution, Backroll by Dimsi is a good option. I tried a little older version. I think they introduced as version 1 beta today. It works with KVM, and it supports full and incremental backups. Similar to other products, you can still define policies where you can select the storage and you can define the schedule. You can define the retention, and all these gets mapped to the backup offerings. In terms of storage, I tried NFS. It works. Even local storage should work, and as per my interaction with our Dimsi friends, anything that you can mount on the Backroll server, that's running the containers, you should be able to back up to those. Unlike NetWorker, you don't need any Backroll specific agent on either on the KVM or on the instances, but you are expected to run the QEMU guest agent. One thing I like about Backroll is the quick deployment using the Docker Compose, but I couldn't complete my review because the PR is still in progress. So there could be things which I have not captured yet, or one thing I see is potentially there could be some issues with the multi-tenancy because Backroll uses user in CloudStack to perform some operation. I think it's limited to list operations, but I am yet to verify that. And you can reach out to Dimsi for any questions you have on this. Suppose you don't want to deploy any backup or recovery solution, right? But you have some reliable NAS storage with you. I'm not talking about your primary storage or secondary storage. You need to have something else, right? Then with KVM, we have a new option that is NAS backup and recovery plugin. This was developed by Rohit and Pearl. So it uses a libvird's functionality called push mode backup. That's what is implemented right now, and you need to use either EL8 and above or Ubuntu 22 and above, because either those functionalities are only available in this version. Basically, ties to the libvirt and QEMU versions. While there is another option, not the push mode, there is a pull mode to back up the change blocks. We could look at it, maybe implement incremental backup as well in the future. Right now, we can call it it's the only native CloudStack backup and recovery provider. It supports backing up running and stopped instances. As you can see here, it uses that push mode for running instances. But in case of stopped instances, we cannot use that. So it uses QEMU convert. It backs up not only volumes, but domain XML as well. But I don't think we use it for restore as such. Since there is no control plane, there is no defining of policies or anything. So your storage or storage repository in the term here, essentially is translated to a backup offering. So if you have multiple storages, you have multiple backup offerings. So if you have multiple backup offerings, that means you have different storages. So it's up to you how you configure it. With 420, it only supports NFS, but CIF support or Samba support is already, there's a PR for it already. You can use it probably in the next release. And there was a plan for CEFFS support, but it couldn't make it. But I think it will also be available soon. Since there is no control plane, it relies on the KVM agent to do the backup and recovery. The recovery, by the way, is implemented using rsync. While you can back up from any supported primary storages, since it's backed up as QCOW2, right now you can only restore to NFS and primary storages. And of course, this is the fastest backup and recovery you can achieve if you have a storage, right? Since it's a simple feature, you cannot expect performance or a lot of functionality that are typically provided by well-known backup and recovery solutions, but it gets the job done for you. Okay, so since I reviewed all of them, some of the limitations or improvements that I could think of are, unfortunately, there is no resource limit. But my colleague Abhisar is already working on it, so we don't have to worry about it. And there is no support for restoration of expunged instances. It's a framework level limitation, but it's something we should definitely look into. And I was wondering, maybe there is a use case for restoring an unmanaged instance as well. I don't know if that will be of much interest to anyone, but and definitely. Support for more backup and recovery solutions. And as I understand, 2 more backup and recovery solutions, SP Certo and Storeware, are probably working on integrating. While actually you can have your backup and recovery solution or the storage in a remote data center, but there is no notion of remote backup to remote zones or in our backup and recovery framework. That's something I think people might find interesting. And definitely we have a lot of CloudStack installations with TensorWare and SCP NG, I believe. So that's something we can look into as well. While you can use Veeam, for example, to back up to object storage, there is no native way to back up to object storage if someone is looking for it. That's something you can look into, but maybe not a high priority as such. And I was wondering if there is a way for domain admin or project admin to define a default backup policy. I think that something will help so that all the instances created in a domain or project are by default protected. Okay. And many backup and recovery solutions support restoring just the files, like Veeam, for example. And there are many other advanced features, but not all of them are exposed through backup and recovery framework. So there could be some options for that. Not just limited to this. There are features like continuous data protection and so on. So likewise, there are some features we may want to explore and expose through backup and recovery framework for the users. And specific to NAS plugin, CFFS will come definitely, I guess. Incremental backup, hopefully, it's possible. So it will be available, I guess. And restoration support for more primary storage types. And I believe we can use libvirt gustfs to restore just the files from the backups. I think that's something people might find useful. And if there is an option to just mount the volume from the backup instead of fully restoring it, that's something we can look into as well. These are some references. Can go through the details. Yep.
Maybe it's just understanding properly on my side, but what is the difference between the NFS backup and the backup to a secondary storage, or not really a backup, but to the volume snapshot to a secondary storage?
Yeah, so this basically uses the backup and recovery framework. So you can back up all the volumes at the same time. So, but in other case, it's not possible. So you have to schedule it or manually do it. Then you have backup from a different timing, right?
And maybe it invokes a native libvirt call for the backup. That's more reasonable.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Maybe if you deleted the VM with its volume, then I'm not sure if it's still available with backup and recovery probably.
Sure.
The snapshot would be gone then.
Okay. When you delete the virtual machine, will the backup automatically be deleted?
I think it's not deleted, but actually we have to implement a way to restore after instances expand. So that's a limitation. Yeah.
Call it the feature.
Yeah. So restoration of expenses is not really there, but it should have been there. I mean, it's a framework level thing, not limited to NAS.
I have a question related to usage. So, any usage events are generated while creating the backup?
Yeah. The usage is completely supported.
Is it built from CloudStack?
Yeah, usage is right. I think the usage is 29 or something. Type is 29. Okay. Yeah. Usage events are generated. Usage is created. Okay. Yeah.
I'm also talking with Acronis to get them to implement a backup for
nice.
plugin for
KVM. We need more.
yeah, they're looking for a business case.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing for them. But they see VMware customers leaving, so they want some new business.
Thank you.
And one remark, I would stay away from file backups for now. That's going to be very dangerous territory to go in there. Although I understand the aspiration and it's very interesting, I would stay away until we have fixed all the other features before we look into file backup.
I mean, these are not in any priority, right? It just listed.
Fantastic question. Can you help?
Can a VM be part of multiple backup providers? Like,
No.
only one backup provider per VM.
Yeah, actually, only one backup provider, one per zone.
All right, maybe one more. Have you tried or have you tried the Virt MBD backup, which supports incremental and differential backups for Q?
No, I don't think so. You mean with the NAS plugin?
I don't know what it is. I've just searched now, and it says it's a backup utility for libvirt QEMU KVM supporting incremental and differential backups
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
instant recovery. So
yeah,
I guess
I came across that. I shared with some of our developers, but I think it's something we can look into. But the libvirt pull mechanism can actually give you an option to back up the changes. So this tool that you're mentioning, I read about it. I don't remember the details, but I think it could be using that. So there is some native way libvirt exposes that we could utilize already.
thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.